Hello and welcome to Millennium News Hour. I am Tanziba Nawreen. In today's bulletin, we will present top and trending news from across the nation and the world. Let's begin with the headlines of the day. White House website highlights infrastructure manufacturing investments as Biden pushes policy wins. US sanctions group of people and firms from Iran, China, and Hong Kong tied to Iran ballistic program. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrives in Saudi Arabia to meet Crown Prince Mohammed. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie files paperwork launching 2024 Republican presidential bid. Kay McConnell aide joining Kentucky GOP gubernatorial campaign in senior management role. LGBTQ+ Americans are under attack. Human Rights Campaign declares in a state of emergency warning. Oklahoma School Board approves what would be the first taxpayer-funded religious school in U.S. Apple unveils a $3,500 headset as it wades into the world of virtual reality. Astrud Gilberto, singer of The Girl from Ipanema, dead at 83. NATO Eastern Flank members want to boost support for Ukraine at Alliance Summit in July. Swedish Defense Minister says NATO full membership is top priority. Swedish royal family marks Sweden's 500 years as independent country. Japan, Australia, US to fund undersea cable connection in Micronesia to counter China's influence. Prince Harry testifies tabloids destroyed his childhood but fails to recall specific stories. Golden Knights take 2-0 lead in Stanley Cup final with 7-2 win over Panthers. And PGA Tour and European Tour agreed to merge with Saudis and end Live Golf feud. You were listening to headlines, now news in detail. The White House on Tuesday launched a website to map and track tens of thousands of infrastructure projects and private manufacturing investments, an effort by the administration to show the positive impact of its policies on the US economy to a skeptical public. The site invest.gov documents roughly 32,000 infrastructure projects and more than 470 billion worth of investments in the production of electric vehicles, batteries, computer chips, biotech, clean energy, and other sectors. President Joe Biden is seeking re-election in 2024 by trying to show how his policies are reshaping the US economy to address climate change and compete with rivals such as China. The president promoted the new website during a meeting Tuesday with his cabinet as part of a larger effort to keep public attention on a string of legislative wins during Biden's first 2 years, when Democrats controlled both the House and Senate. Following $1.9 trillion in pandemic relief, Biden signed a $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill into law. He also secured more than $250 billion to invest in computer chip production and scientific research and created new tax incentives for renewable energy sources that are worth hundreds of billions of dollars. The US said Tuesday it is sanctioning a group of people and firms from Iran, China, and Hong Kong associated with the alleged development of Iran's ballistic missile program. The network of 7 people and 6 firms facilitated procurement of sensitive and critical parts and technology for key actors in Iran's ballistic missile development, including Iran's defense ministry and its affiliated firms. According to the Treasury Department, among the sanctions targets are the China-based firm Zhejiang Qingji, which has allegedly sold centrifuges and other materials to an Iran-based firm affiliated with the nation's defense ministry. Also designated for sanctions were several executives at Qingji and the Hong Kong-based Lingo Process Engineering Limited, which Treasury said served as a front company for the Chinese firm. Also named is Iran's defense attaché in Beijing, Devod Damghani, who is alleged to coordinate purchases from China for Iran end users. Among other things, the sanctions deny the people and firms access to any property or financial assets held in the US and prevent US companies and citizens from doing business with them. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived Tuesday in Saudi Arabia on a trip in which he plans to meet Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman amid strained relations between Riyadh and Washington. Blinken's trip, his second to Saudi Arabia since becoming America's top diplomat, comes after the kingdom under Prince Mohammed has been more willing to disregard the US in striking its own decisions. Riyadh has clashed repeatedly with President Joe Biden on its supply of crude oil to global markets, its willingness to partner with Russia in OPEC Plus, and reaching a detent with Iran mediated by China. Biden also pledged to make Saudi Arabia a pariah over the 2018 killing of Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi. However, Saudi Arabia still relies, like other Gulf Arab nations, on the US to be the security guarantor for the wider Middle East as tensions over Iran's nuclear program in recent years have spilled over into a series of attacks. Riyadh and Washington also have been working in tandem to try and strike a lasting ceasefire in Sudan, which has been elusive during weeks of fighting between the country's military and a rival paramilitary force. And Saudi Arabia wants to end its war in Yemen, something also sought by the US. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie filed paperwork Tuesday, formally launching his bid for the Republican nomination for president after casting himself as the only candidate willing to directly take on former President Donald Trump. Christie, who also ran for president in 2016, announced his campaign later Tuesday at a town hall in the early voting state of New Hampshire. After losing the nomination to Trump 7 years ago, the former governor and federal prosecutor went on to become a close off and on advisor before breaking with the former president over his refusal to accept the results of the 2020 election. Christie enters a growing primary field that already includes Trump, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, former United Nations Ambassador Nikki Haley, and U.S. Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina. Former Vice President Mike Pence will be formally launching his own campaign in Iowa on Wednesday. Christie, who during his time as New Jersey's governor established a reputation as a fighter with a knack for creating viral moments of confrontation, faces an uphill battle to the nomination in a party that remains closely aligned with the former president, despite Trump's re-election loss in 2020 and Republicans' poorer than expected showing in the 2022 midterm elections. Christie has cast himself as the only person with the guts to take on Trump directly and has warned of a repeat of 2016 if candidates fail to confront him. A top aide to Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell has joined Daniel Cameron's gubernatorial campaign in Kentucky, as the GOP nominee adds another political heavy hitter to his team in trying to defeat Democratic Governor Andy Beshear in one of the nation's most closely watched races. Terry Carmack, the senator's chief of staff, will assume a senior management role in Cameron's campaign, said Sean Southard, a state Republican Party spokesman. The key personnel move this week comes amid a fast-developing campaign, with both candidates on the campaign trail and TV ads already on the air. 5 months ahead of a general election contest that could send loud signals about the mood of the electorate ahead of next year's campaigns for the presidency and control of Congress. Beshear, who is seeking re-election to a second term, planned to tout his record on law enforcement issues at a campaign event later Tuesday. Cameron, the state attorney general, has blamed Beshear for what he has said was an increase in crime in the bluegrass state. Cameron's campaign said the addition of Carmack reflects an all-hands-on-deck approach by a unified GOP in support of his bid to unseat Beshear. The Human Rights Campaign declared a state of emergency for LGBTQ+ people in the US on Tuesday and released a guidebook pointing to laws it deems discriminatory in each state, along with Know Your Rights information and resources to help people relocate to states with stronger LGBTQ+ protections. Sounding the alarm about the current political climate, the nation's largest organization devoted to the rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer Americans said travel advisories aren't enough to help people already living in states where lawmakers have targeted LGBTQ+ people. We need champions right now, HRC President Kelly Robinson said in an interview with the Associated Press. President Joe Biden and other LGBTQ+ rights supporters with decision-making authorities, she said, need to be more than just allies. The declaration is a call to action for people in power at every level of government and the business community, she said, urging them to fight for LGBTQ+ rights with the same fervor as they have fought for abortion rights since the US Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade last summer. A state school board in Oklahoma voted Monday to approve what would be the first publicly funded religious school in the nation, despite a warning from the state's attorney general that the decision was unconstitutional. The statewide virtual charter school board voted 3-2 to approve the application by the Catholic Archdiocese of Oklahoma to establish the St. Isidore of Seville Virtual Charter School. The online public charter school would be open to students across the state in kindergarten through grade 12. Oklahoma Attorney General Gentner Drummond had warned the board that such a decision clearly violated the Oklahoma Constitution. The approval of any publicly funded religious school is contrary to Oklahoma law and not in the best interest of taxpayers, Drummond said in a statement shortly after the board's vote. It's extremely disappointing that board members violated their oath in order to fund religious schools with our tax dollars. In doing so, these members have exposed themselves and the state to potential legal action that could be costly. Apple on Monday unveiled a long-rumored headset that will place its users between the virtual and real world, while also testing the technology trendsetter's ability to popularize newfangled devices after others failed to capture the public's imagination. After years of speculation, Apple CEO Tim Cook hailed the arrival of the sleek goggles, dubbed Vision Pro, at the company's annual developers conference held on a park-like campus in Cupertino, California, that Apple's late co-founder Steve Jobs helped design. The device will be capable to toggling between virtual reality or VR and augmented reality or AR, which projects digital imagery while users still can see objects in the real world. This marks the beginning of a journey that will bring a new dimension to powerful personal technology, Cook told the crowd. Although Apple executives provided an extensive preview of the headset's capabilities during the final half hour of Monday's event, consumers will have to wait before they can get their hands on the device and prepare to pay a hefty price to boot. Vision Pro will sell for $3,500 once it's released in stores early next year. Astrud Gilberto, the Brazilian singer, songwriter, and entertainer, whose offhand English-language cameo on The Girl from Ipanema made her a worldwide voice of bossa nova, has died at age 83. Musician Paul Ritchie, a family friend, confirmed that she died Monday. He did not provide additional details. Born in Salvador, Bahia, and raised in Rio de Janeiro, Gilberto became an overnight, unexpected superstar in 1964, thanks to knowing just enough English to be recruited by the makers of Gets Gilberto, the classic bossa nova album featuring saxophonist Stan Getz and her then-husband, singer, songwriter, guitarist João Gilberto. Now it's time for global updates. NATO allies should aim to further boost their support for Ukraine and for its aspiration to become a member of the alliance, the leaders of 9 Central and Eastern European countries said Tuesday. The presidents of an informal group known as the Bucharest Nine, the nations in the easternmost parts of the NATO alliance, met in Slovakia's capital, Bratislava, to discuss their common approach at the NATO summit scheduled for July 11 to 13 in Vilnius, Lithuania. We aim for a more robust, multi-year and comprehensive support package for Ukraine, which will reinforce its defense capabilities also by implementing NATO standards and increasing interoperability with NATO, they said in a statement to conclude their meeting, which was also attended by NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg. In light of Russia's war of aggression, we will continue our strong support to bolster Ukraine's capacity to defend itself and to relieve the humanitarian catastrophe. The leaders said they expect that in Vilnius, we will upgrade our political relations with Ukraine to a new level and launch a new political track that will lead to Ukraine's membership in NATO once conditions allow. Sweden's defense minister said Tuesday his country's top priority is to gain full NATO membership before the allied leaders gather for their next summit, saying an addition will make the transatlantic alliance even stronger. NATO wants to bring Sweden into the fold by the time United States President Joe Biden and other allied leaders meet July 11 to 12 in Vilnius, Lithuania. But Turkey and Hungary have yet to endorse the move. All 31 member countries must ratify a candidate's accession protocol for it to join the alliance. The Swedish government's highest priority is to become a full-fledged member of NATO as soon as possible, said Swedish Defense Minister Pål Jonson in Japan for talks his Japanese counterpart and other officials. We are hopeful that we can become it by the Vilnius summit. Turkey's government has criticized Sweden for being too lenient on terror organizations and security threats, while Hungary has not given details. Johnson said he respects the decisions of Turkey and Hungary and that Sweden has new anti-terrorism legislation that would close up any remaining loopholes there to address Turkey's concern. Sweden's royal family took part in ceremonies Tuesday, marking 500 years since the Scandinavian country emerged as an independent nation. King Carl XVI Gustaf and Queen Sylvia were first in the town of Strängnäs, 60 kilometers west of the Swedish capital, Stockholm. where Gustav Vasa was elected King of Sweden in 1523. His election ended the so-called Kalmar Union with Norway and Denmark, which had endured since the 14th century. Sweden was eventually transformed from an elective monarchy into a hereditary monarchy, where the crown would be passed on from father to son. On Tuesday morning, the royal couple, Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson and Andreas Norlén, Speaker of Sweden's parliament, arrived at the Gothic-style cathedral, built between 1291 and 1340, which is in the heart of Strängnäs, a quiet town with a population of about 13,000. In Stockholm, Crown Princess Victoria appeared in national dress, and her husband, Prince Daniel, opened the gates of the downtown palace with free entry to the castle and its museums, as is customary on June 6, Sweden's National Day. Victoria and Daniel held hands with their children, Princess Estelle and Prince Oscar, as they declared the palace open. Hundreds, some waving Swedish blue and yellow flags, rushed inside. In 1980, the order of succession changed, making Victoria the oldest of King Carl XVI Gustav's three children, first in line to the throne. Kristersson said that the country of 10 million had become a modern nation state. Japan announced Tuesday that it joined the United States and Australia in signing a $95 million undersea cable project that will connect East Micronesia island nations to improve networks in the Indo-Pacific region, where China is increasingly expanding its influence. The approximately 2,250-kilometer undersea cable will connect the state of Kasre in the Federated States of Micronesia, Tarawa in Kiribati, and Nauru to the existing cable landing point located in Pohnpei in Micronesia, according to the Japanese Foreign Ministry. Japan, the United States, and Australia have stepped up cooperation with the Pacific Islands, apparently to counter efforts by Beijing to expand its security and economic influence in the region. In a joint statement, the parties said the next steps involve a final survey and design and manufacturing of the cable, whose width is about that of a garden hose. Completion is expected around 2025. Prince Harry's historic showdown Tuesday with the publisher of a British tabloid exposed his deep suspicions of the press, but offered little concrete evidence to support accusations of phone hacking that he said caused so much anguish in his life. The Duke of Sussex became the first senior member of the royal family to testify in more than a century, as he held a Bible in his right hand and in a soft voice swore to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth in the High Court in London. Harry accuses the publisher of the Daily Mirror of using unlawful techniques on an industrial scale to score front-page scoops on his life. Green apologized for the one instance Mirror Group has admitted to hiring a private investigator to dig up dirt on Harry, which was not among the claims he has brought. Mirror Group denies or doesn't admit his other allegations. Green acknowledged that the Duke had lived a life of tabloid life intrusion and then, in a sympathetic tone, set about dismantling his case. Taken back in time to his 12th birthday and onward through early adulthood, he was confronted with articles that he has complained about and asked to identify the source of wrongdoing by Mirror Group's journalists. Harry was forced almost immediately to acknowledge that he wasn't certain he read the 33 specific articles about him when they were published. Now it's time for business news. Today's New York stock close price is 15,391.80. The NYSE Composite is increased by 116.59 points or 0.76%. Tokyo stock close price is 32,506.78. The Nikkei 225 index is increased by 289.35 points or 0.90%. Shanghai stock close price is 3,195.34. The Shanghai index is decreased by 37.10 points or 1.15%. Hong Kong stock close price is 19,099.28. The Hang Seng index is decreased by 9.22 points or 0.05%. Bombay stock close price is 62,792.88. The Sensex index is increased by 5.41 points or 0.01%. Let's have a look on today's sports stories. No team in over 25 years has been more dominant than the Vegas Golden Knights through the first two games of a Stanley Cup final. They have outscored the Florida Panthers by 8 goals, including Monday night's 7-2 victory in Game 2 that put the Knights 2 wins from the first championship in the franchise's short 6-year history. It will take a rare rally for the Panthers to come back as the series shifts to Florida for Game 3 on Thursday. Teams that took a 2-0 series lead in the Stanley Cup final are 31-3 in the expansion era, but the Panthers opened the playoffs by storming back from 3-1 down to beat the heavily favored Boston Bruins. Florida will have to significantly up its level of play to beat a Vegas team that won by 3 goals on Saturday and then 5 in this game. The last team to win the first 2 games of a Cup final by more than 8 combined goals was the 1996 Colorado Avalanche, who outscored the Panthers by 9. The PGA Tour ended its expensive fight with Saudi Arabia's golf venture and now is joining forces with it, making a stunning announcement Tuesday of a merger that creates a commercial operation with the Public Investment Fund and the European Tour. As part of the deal, the sides immediately are dropping all lawsuits involving LIV Golf. From the golf side, still to be determined is how players like Brooks Koepka and Dustin Johnson can rejoin the PGA Tour after defecting last year for signing bonuses reported to be in the 150 million range. From the commercial side, the governor of Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund joins the PGA Tour board of directors and leads the new business venture as chairman, though the PGA Tour will have a majority stake. News of the deal came as a surprise to many watchers of the lawsuits and Saudi Arabia's inroads into US politics, sports, and culture. This is a huge development and obviously upends a world of golf, which has been perhaps more tradition-bound in the past, said Christian Ulrichsen, a Middle East fellow at Houston's Baker Institute. Under Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund has made a point of seeking out investments like LIV, where it could shake up existing industries, Ulrichsen said. Let's have a look on today's weather forecast. That's all in today's news. Keep watching Millennium News 24 for latest update. Millennium TV USA and Millennium News 24 network is transmitted and available to be watched free for all at TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV and Apple TV, and also in all European countries and Australia, available with Sky Network, Worldwide Jadoo TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago BD Network and Horizon Satellite globally. Stay connected with us for all types of informative and entertainment program. Thank you.